All right, we are live. Let's get our Facebook folks in here, and we could start the show. Hopefully everything holds together here. And we got the spinning wheels going 1 and 2. All right, welcome in, welcome in. It is a loser Friday morning, unfortunately. I am here sitting in my childhood home out in eastern Iowa after the eventful drive from Seattle back to my hometown with the baby, the dog, and the cat. But we made it. We're here. Hopefully everything holds together. Brought all the recording equipment besides my light, using my mom's makeup mirror. Shout out to mom for that one to have the light there. But how are you doing, Scott? Unfortunate. We had a chance to come in and celebrate our first collective covering a team with the playoffs. Falcons haven't made it since we've been covering. They have like the longest streak in the NFC or one of the worst ones. Broncos haven't made it yet. We're close, but unfortunately couldn't seal the deal yesterday.
Yeah, going into last week, we said I'll probably pick the Broncos in all 4 games, but I don't think they'll win all 4 games. It's just, again, it speaks to probability.
Yeah.
If you've got a 60% chance, again, 60% chance 4 times in a row, and 60% is pretty high chances of winnings. You multiply 0.6 times 0.6 times 0.6 times 0.6 to figure out your probability of winning all 4 games. Well, that ends up being about 8%. Mm-hmm. So it's just probably not going to happen. So do I still think this team can go 3-1 and make the playoffs? Absolutely. Do we expect them to drop a game? Yes, we did. It's just, this is the NFL. You don't win 9 games in a row. Most teams don't. Mm-hmm. So we disappointed? Yes. We ready to throw the baby out with the bathwater? No. There's the fan reactions, and I get it. Fire this guy, cut this guy, bench that guy. We stink. It's all over. Guys, this is the NFL. Games happen. That's a good team over there too. It sucks to lose, but you're still in really good shape because you've taken care of your business up until this point. So that's my overall takeaway. The Chargers are a good team. They're 9-5 or whatever they are now. They're 10-5.
Maybe 10-5, 9-5.
I don't know. That just brought them to even. I think they're 9-6. I can't keep track of 17 games, man. It's killing me. I think they're both 9-6.
I think they're both 9-6, and the Chargers now obviously have the tiebreaker for Denver in the playoff seeding. So it is going to be probably improbable for the Broncos to jump the Chargers in the playoff seedings, and that is unfortunate because whoever gets the 7 seed has probably a one-way ticket. Nobody leaves alive to Buffalo for that first game there. But I mean, if the Ravens beat the Steelers this week, which I say is probably most likely to happen, then the 3 matchup, 6-3, is going to be whoever heads to Baltimore. And between playing at Baltimore, at Buffalo, I mean, I'd rather go to Baltimore than Buffalo personally, but both of those seem like bad times. So 7 and 6 seed, if it is at Baltimore, not that different to me. Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are the best 2 quarterbacks in football this season, playing this season. That means they're better than Mahomes, broad picture, but this season. But yeah, it is an unfortunate loss for Denver, no doubt. And we want to say hello to some people coming in here as we get it going. We got David Youngkin saying VJ should be fired immediately. Don't care. You say no, he shouldn't. Well, I'll say no, he shouldn't. It was not a good game from the Broncos defense. They've been not very good the last 3 games, honestly, in terms of giving up yards. And Anthony Richardson's just so scattershot and not really a true drop back passer in the rhythm and timing, Scott, that everybody's talking about the defense being back or Chris Abrams' drain looks great. I'm like, well, that's not really a replicable game week to week. Let's see what he looks like versus, Herbert, Burrow, quarterbacks that can actually operate the drop back pass game. And Chris Abrams' drain was fine. Shout out to the rookie, first career pick. Also shout out to Watson, first career carry as well.
That interception from Chris Abrams' drain was a thing of beauty.
It was a great play.
You don't see guys bait in the NFL. I mean, that looked like a college play.
Especially Herbert, who's thrown no picks this year. He's
where you're just so much better than the other guy that I can just trail on your back hip, bait you into throwing, and then undercut it. That interception was a thing of beauty last night from Chris Abrams' drains.
It was great.
Abrams' drain.
CAD. Yeah, easy to go there. But yeah, no, shout out to him on his first career interception. And I do think Denver found themselves a competent backup boundary cornerback. But I also think that VJ called a game to protect his secondary and his cornerbacks, where the last 3 weeks since Moss has been out, you've seen a lot more zone coverage from the Broncos rather than a very cover one centric team. And that has resulted in some areas of the field that can be exposed and some other players showing some weakness. Specifically, I think up the spine, Scott. Just get into it. Watching this game, I was immensely displeased from the Broncos linebacker plays in this one. You had Cody Barton having probably the worst singular linebacker drive I've seen this season. He got destroyed in space versus that 300-pound fullback, Matlock or whatever his name is.
Yeah, that dude put a foot in the ground and cut around him. You're like, oh no.
Yeah, and then there was a couple blocks where Cody Barton was run plays where he was just absolutely eviscerated, and then he met Edwards at the goal line, about a yard short of the goal line, and just got obliterated at the point of attack and got pushed back, and it was an easy touchdown for the Chargers. The pain continued. You had Justin Strnad with the call it soft, call it not. Don't put yourself in that situation with the bad penalty. I thought Justin Strnad also had a horrible game.
Soft is a penalty. You might not like the rule or the way it's called, but it was absolutely the right call. It's one of those, don't hate the player, hate the game kind of thing. Or that's a penalty. You might not like it, but it was called correctly.
Yep. So really just a horrible game from the Broncos. I thought the linebackers, safeties also were kind of hit or miss. Not a good game from PJ Locke, but big takeaway personnel-wise watching this one. The Chargers are going to come in. They're going to want to play 21 personnel. They're going to want to play 12 personnel. These heavy formations, Big Ten football from old power football from Jim Harbaugh. And Broncos couldn't respond. They weren't able to get really good pass rush in this game either. That was my next big takeaway. Well, I guess my three big takeaways. Number one was penalties. We already talked about that. I think we did. Number two is linebackers. And then it was the pass rush, just kind of non-existent in this game. But yeah, I think we've been able to kind of duct tape, patch, protect, hide linebacker play this season. But we knew going into the season they weren't happy with their linebackers. They're trying to make moves. You lost Singleton week 3, and you've been kind of getting by. But once you're playing a team that wants to play heavier personnel, you're not able to play your dime package. You're going to be out there with linebackers, and they're going to matter. And this was a game that I thought, well, Denver's defense is top 5, top 10 this season. They're not an elite, no doubt, number 1 defense. And I think the lack of pass rush without blitzing / the linebacker play really, really showed to be a weakness in this game versus the Chargers.
I agree. I think some of my positive takeaways was the Broncos offensive line overall. They handled Bowles, the tackles. We talked about how good is Bowles. Well, Bowles is pretty damn good this year. I think he's playing some of his best football of his career right now. McGlinchey was a bit of,
but yeah, a few bad penalties yesterday.
But yes,
yeah.
McGlinchey on the right side has been really good. They handled their one-on-ones against two pretty good edge rushers over there in Bosa and Mack. So I thought they did a really good job. Zach Allen was a menace. It was one of his. I know he jumped one just a shade. It was one of those where he got off so good he looked offsides. Might not have even been offsides, but that happens when you time the snap just perfectly. But he was a menace. And again, we mentioned Chris Abrams' strain, and then I think. Talking about some scapegoats. It was funny. It's like last night, one of the guys that was getting some of the most flack was Javonte Williams. My guys, Javonte Williams has been relegated to like RB3 touches. He had 4 carries. He had 4 carries last night. He's averaging under 6 carries in the last 6 games. The guy's not, tanking this team because of his lack of ability to run the ball. You might not have significantly better options. You weren't expecting him to be better, but that was the one. It's like, Javonte actually had a pretty decent game. Now I'll tell you what, Nick, about Javonte, and this was, I think, more about the substitution patterns. When I see them go empty and go 5 wide in a 2-minute drill, and I see Javonte Williams out at the X, I'm like, that's a bigger problem. I need more bodies. I need more playmakers.
A little bit more
than Javonte. But I think that was more about substitutions. They didn't want to give them a chance to sub because he was right back in there, dotting the backfield. But lots going on last night. And again, you're 9-6. You're still right in the thick of things. We didn't expect this team to go 4-0 to finish the season. No.
Yeah, it stinks in the moment, but as we always say, it's a long season, and you want to look at it in parts. And defense has fallen off a little bit the last 3 weeks. Riley Moss get better soon. I think you can play just a completely different game when you have Moss out there, and you're probably going to need him versus the Bengals. Now, I do think, Scott, there's a chance that T. Higgins packs it up for the season, right? I mean, he's so close to a big contract. Why should he play? But we can talk about that later on. Let's say hello to some more people coming in here. We got Gordon saying the end is inevitable. Is one extra week really worth it? Yes, I think one extra week really is worth it for the Broncos. This is a team that has not made the playoffs in a while. And let's say you even go into the playoffs and get drubbed by the Bills. Just the preparation of the playoffs, having a taste of it, getting to that area, that's a huge win for the team, the locker room. It's not like at this point you're going to have a much different draft position if you make the playoffs versus not making, if you're one and done in the playoffs versus not making the playoffs. So yeah, it does matter making the playoffs. It's the ultimate goal and a building block, and just the mental preparation, getting over that hurdle, I think is a big win for this team.
Wanted to say hello. Speaking of saying hello to people, Coach Chris coming in here with the hot pink. Thank you, Chris. Hope you're doing well. It's a tale of two halves. Abandon the run in the second half. The zone defense is getting exposed. We played great in the first half, then came out, try to play in a different game. Like they were trying not to lose, but not to win, trying to play pretty and not physical. Yeah, the first drive warmed my heart.
Yeah.
That's the kind of football I like, and when we first started doing this, Nick, the first 2 years, we talked about the Broncos getting bullied in the trenches. Said it a lot. That's completely changed. Now if you're losing stuff more on the back end of things a little bit, or in the perimeter where, hey, I could use some more wide receivers. I could use some more skill players. Trenches are solid. The trenches
or the quarterback playing out of their mind, which Justin Herbert has.
The trenches are good.
Yeah.
So going back to Coach Chris, yes, I think you change things up. And how much did the end of half change momentum in this game? That 3 points of, we kind of just Sean Payton. Listen, Sean Payton is greedy, and you love him for it. Every once in a while, it's going to cost you. Every once in a while, but there's a reason why you're winning these games by double digits and not just eking by managing the game and controlling it. And then, we're going to control the clock and then kick a field goal, because he's an assassin. He absolutely is. So, I got 45 seconds on it. I'm going to try and move the ball. I like that in him. There goes Nick. And, I was watching another game, and these two teams, it was Monday Night Football, Raiders and Falcons. That game was so bad. That was some of the worst football I've watched all year. And I'm like, I text Nick. I said, Sean Payton would hang 50 on these bums with the same personnel, because that's just his mentality. Every once in a while, it's going to cost you, but over the long 17-game period, it's going to be a positive.
I wish he'd have kept that aggression on that 4th and 5 at the end of the game. Easy, Friday morning quarterback. I saw the fourth down bot said that it was like a 26% chance of winning if you went for it on 4th down there versus the 21% with the punt. And with how Justin Herbert was moving the football, that was easy to say in hindsight, but probably should have gone for it there and carried that aggression over. But go ahead, Scott.
And to your point, Riley Dixon had just put them on the 3 the previous drive and held them. And he dropped it on the 10 that time, which for Riley Dixon this year is a bad punt.
Yeah. He's a free agent at the end of the year, so we haven't
been
been talking
putting
about
on the 10. That was like kind of a mistake for him. He's been so good at dropping guys down on the 5 that one was actually a little bit kind of a miss for him. By his standards, that was a little bit of a miss.
Yeah. We got thank you again, Coach Chris. $50 breaking the ice here. We got Denver Luke coming in. Good morning. Hope you're doing well. We appreciate you saying hello. Chase is upset. It's okay, Chase. We're all here to get through it. Montana Altitude said one of the best QB pressure teams in the league and no holding calls. If you watch, you can see the holds. Would like to see the Broncos players complain to the refs. I think that this is a team that the Chargers have top 12 picks at the tackle position, Scott. Rashawn Slater was the second tackle taken in that incredible 2021 draft class. And then also used the 7th pick this year on Joe Alt there at right tackle. You have to beat the Chargers on the interior. And Zach Allen had his best game since suffering the heel injury that he had, the calf injury back in week 12. He was good, but John Franklin Myers, DJ Jones, Malcolm Roach, I didn't really feel They had good, decent run game until that last 2-3 drives. But you needed somebody else pressuring up front because the tackles versus your edge rushers was mostly a stalemate / win for the Chargers. So this is one reason that I'm always, like, I'm kind of, I don't know, Scott, on Twitter, if you see me, I'm a little bit annoyed already at everybody screaming weapon no matter what round one. Weapon is an option, but so is linebacker and defensive front because you need a bevy of options. And this was a game that the Broncos edge rushers didn't get it done for the most part. Jonathan Cooper had that terrible horse collar. That was a big momentum shifter as well. I think that was on a 3rd down. And yeah, the Chargers invested heavily in the tackles, and the tackles did what they were invested to do. They stopped the Broncos edge rushers.
Yeah, it was going against Justin Herbert has been sacked a lot in recent weeks, and they did a good job of protecting him. You can say, you can see the holes now. The only holding call that I blatantly watched, I'm typically watching the guys get releases and watching the ball when I'm watching the game live, was the last one against Bowles on a play that ended up being that where Nix broke contain and then tried to reverse pass downfield, but it kind of, his momentum carried it forward. So it was like 2 penalties on that. That one was pretty obvious, but that was the only one I really saw. Otherwise, the refs in there, yes, we can talk about the missed PI call. Should that have been PI? Yeah, probably should have been. But, I just, how much of a difference in the game, I'm not sure. But, what people say, I saw someone call this a trap game yesterday. I'm like, this isn't a trap game. The Broncos, it's a primetime game against a divisional opponent, and you're an underdog. How are you in a trap game if you're the underdog in this game? You can't be. So I think sometimes we get confused what trap games are. What we don't get confused about is what underdog is. Underdog is the place to play if you're a sports fan looking to win money while watching sports. Join over 5 million fans who are already playing on Underdog. With their Pick'em game, you could win money by making entries with your favorite players, compete against other players just by selecting higher or lower on 2 or more player stats, and you could win up to 1,000 times your money. Turn every touchdown into a win with Underdog.
With their champs game, you can win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on player stats like passing yards, interceptions, touchdowns, and much more. Like, for example, will Bo Nix have higher or lower than 237.5 passing yards next week? Bengals next week. I wish I could tell you which running back to bet on because they cannot stop the run for their life, but that would be a team to watch for next week. And we got the college football playoffs. Maybe put some money on there. It's going to be an incredible week of football all around. Every dog deserves a second chance, and with Underdog Rescues, you can get your money back and receive a promo if an early injury causes your entry to lose.
So download the Underdog app today and use code MHuddle to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, download the Underdog app today and use our code MHuddle to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Every player, every touchdown, just select higher or lower on Underdog.
Must be 18 plus, 19 plus Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Avoid in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Keeping it rolling here. Appreciate the Underdog. We got Monica coming in and says, morning, Nick and Scott. Are we really a team who can't beat above 500 teams? Is it a clear reality? I mean, kind of. You did beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who on the road, who just beat the heck out of the Chargers last week. I mean, it's one of those things, Scott. The NFL is so matchup oriented, right? And week to week, almost anybody can beat anybody. So again, not too high, not too low. What does the overall trend say? This is the Broncos team. If we were splitting the league into quartiles, they'd be in the second quartile. So if things went, honestly, for the most part this season, Scott, I would say things have bounced the Broncos' way a lot. I mean, I think they have the second least number of season-ending injuries of any team in the league. You had that game against the Colts where they just gift-wrapped that one, right, to Jonathan Taylor. For the most part, the ball has bounced the Broncos' way. They're a team who is fringe playoff, 6th seed to one of the first 2 teams out. They could just as easily be where the Colts are at or the Dolphins are at or the Bengals are at right now, in my opinion. They're in that block, and this season, it seems like Denver probably will make the playoffs. So knock on wood. It's going to take something improbable.
And Monica, part of it's schedule related. Yeah. You know, you're 6-3 in your last 9. Okay, that's pretty good football. Your 3 losses have come on the road to playoff teams. That's kind of expected. That's you're going to be an underdog shout out to Underdog, no matter who you are in most of those cases, if you're playing a playoff team on the road, that team is expected to win. You take care of your business in your other games, and you're probably 12-5 over the course of a year, which is a pretty good season. So again, part of that scheduling, the 3 winning teams you've played in the last 10 weeks, 9 games, have all been on the road. So it's not overly surprising. I mean, if you said, looking at this 9-game stretch, hey, you can go 6-3, I'll take it. I'll take it. And you can't just, it's the big picture is what you're trying to keep an eye on. Small enough sample size, you can prove any point. And right now you're pissed because that game didn't go the way you thought it should. And there were a lot of things that you thought should have been different. I get it. I get it. But the big picture is this is still a very good Denver Broncos football team.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, again, they're a second quartile team. You can see they have flaws. That's not shocking or anything like that. But I see a lot of doom and gloom a little bit in the chat about this Broncos team making the playoffs still. What has to happen, there's a lot of different scenarios here. The Colts can still get in over the Broncos. So if the Broncos lose the next 2 games and the Colts / Bengals or Dolphins all finish with the same record, I think the Colts get in with because it doesn't go to head-to-head then if it's split between 3 teams. It goes to your best overall conference record. And the Broncos beat the absolute crap out of the NFC South this year. That's great. It's kind of a problem when it comes to tiebreakers. So odds are you're going to get in above the Colts, but there is a scenario out there where if you lose your next 2 games and the Colts are tied with either the Dolphins or the Bengals, the Colts would get in. Also, if you tie record-wise with the Colts or the Bengals and it's just one of those 2 teams, they're going to get in over the Broncos, assuming you lose the next 2 games that have the head-to-head with the Bengals also, as well as Dolphins' better conference record. So Denver just needs to win one more game, and it doesn't even matter. I think that they're going to have a good chance to win one of these next 2 games, Scott. I don't know if you got a chance to watch this slop fest that was this Bengals-Titans game last week where there was, I believe, 23 penalties and 10 turnovers between the 2 teams. But yeah, Denver still can take care of business. I don't think it needs to be all doom and gloom here. I think they got a 50-50 chance to win the next 2 games, and we'll see. I mean, Chiefs take care of business versus, I don't even know who they play this week off the top of my head, but then they're definitely going to be resting Mahomes and everybody because Mahomes is playing on a hurt ankle. So again, it's a crappy loss to the Chargers because now it does mean that Broncos are probably going to have to be heading to Buffalo if they do make the playoffs. But what is Denver still at an 86% chance to make the playoffs? It would be an epic collapse from this team and everything going wrong for it not to happen. So not doom and gloom, folks.
Chiefs are at home versus Texans, at Steelers, at Broncos. So they got a pretty salty finish. And Jeff says 1-6 against teams against 500 is pretty apparent. It is to a certain extent if this was a finished product, but you got to remember you're 3-3 in your first 6 games. First 2 losses came against with a rookie quarterback against, those are 2 of your winning teams. Now, you played Seattle at home right now. Denver would be favored. Denver would be favored over the Seahawks at home right
2.5.
Winning at Pittsburgh.
It depends on if Howell's playing or not.
Pittsburgh was at home again. You play that one again right now. That's a damn near a pick 'em. Pittsburgh might be favored by a point, might be, but that one's tight. So part of this again is the way the schedule is shaken out.
Yep,
Naj coming in. Good to see
and again, not too high, not too low. We got Naj coming in.
Let me get Naj. Nick, you're breaking up on us
appreciate you,
a little
Naj.
bit. Naj says the inability to get our D off the field on 3rd down since Moss went down brought back memories of last year's failures. I get why people lose hope. Peyton said this team is different. They need to go out and prove it. And Naj, but it is different. You're not going to win every single game. Momentum shifts, pad calls. That this team, I don't think anybody can look at this team and say it's not different. Naj, what are your expectations? Are they to win every single game? Well, that day, yes, they are. When you line up, yes, on Sunday, on Thursday, whatever game that is. But looking ahead for 4 games, again, we said 3-1 would be really, really good, and that's kind of what I'm expecting. 2-2 wouldn't be totally surprising. But when you're breaking down the moment, it becomes painful.
Yeah, hopefully my internet's a little better now. I was working on my parents' internet here, but appreciate you, Naj, coming in always with the positivity. Yeah, Moss going down completely changed the the dynamic of the defense. I don't have true media or access to sports info solutions, but I would imagine the Broncos cover 0 and cover 1 dropped precipitously over the last 3 weeks, and you're seeing a lot more cover 3, cover 6 from the Broncos. So your man defense is not as prevalent, and that makes it where you can't be as blitz oriented up front. And also teams, especially good drop back quarterbacks, can find holes in the zone. And we've seen that. Jaquan McMillan's having a great season. He's a smaller guy, and he's not always the most explosive. So there's the honey hole, if you will, either between the safety, the nickel, the linebacker, and the boundary corner. That's a football term there, Scott. They call it the honey hole for finding zone coverage. Good quarterbacks can find those against zone coverage, and that was a weakness for this Broncos team. The other weakness, Scott, we kind of talked about it on here a little bit earlier. I don't know if it was before the show or after. Javonte Williams, he didn't get a lot of touches as far as rushing the football, but he was far and away your most targeted player in the game. He ends up with 11 targets, 7 receptions, and only 29 yards on those 7 receptions with a long of 12. So really inefficient game from Javonte Williams. It's not his fault per se, because
who's throwing the ball and where and why? That's Javonte Williams not being effective in the passing game. That's a bigger statement than he's catching the ball and falling down.
He's not really a dynamic player after the catch, and that's something hopefully this Broncos team can work on, but he is your best pass protecting back without a doubt, the most trustworthy there. And
so he becomes the check down option. I mean, he was never I won't say never. I think that one where it could have been a walk-in touchdown. Javonte touched his chest like that was mine, but I put that one on the quarterback. That ball was thrown high and hard.
Yeah.
And it didn't need to be. I mean, hell, Bo probably could have run it in behind him. That one may have been where he was a primary receiver, but other than that, it's check down, check down, check down, check down. Mm-hmm. That's not on Javonte. Again, Javonte, do I think he's gone next year? Yes, I do. Do I think Javonte is holding this team back to the extent that he was getting the flack last night on the chat? No, I don't. I don't.
He's a limited player, but you're going to have limitations on this team. And luckily, running back is one that it's going to be very easy to improve upon this offseason. And some of that, Scott, also is credit to Jesse Minter and this Chargers defense. They are playing good football this year. Is the reason a lot of people are talking about Jesse Minter potentially being one of the top head coaching candidates just after 1 year with the Chargers. I mean, if you remember, the Chargers had the worst defense in football last season, worse than the Broncos, and Brandon Staley gets fired. And this Chargers team, pretty aged, doesn't have a lot of pieces on the defense still, and they're playing good football, and they really make you work the check down. And it'd be nice if the Broncos were just a little bit more explosive with the check down, especially in a game where, what do you think Bo Nix's average depth of target was in this?
I was listening. So, it was at one point, it was the lowest of any quarterback in the NFL of the entire season.
I think it was
at one point it was 2.1, and then it got up to 2.6.
Yeah. It ended up being 3.3, which is still like in the 5th percentile of games all time. So again, that's partially the defense. It's partially the weapons, and Bo Nix as well. I mean, there's some times where it's good to protect the football, but also you got to, again, we talked about it earlier, Scott, the honey hole. You got to have the arm talent and the anticipation to be able to squeeze those zones. And he did not so much in this game. I'm not faulting Bo Nix for that, for taking the safer option, but you didn't see the true tight window drop back game from Bo Nix as well. So we have questions about that going forward with Nix, but again, larger sample size. He was not the loss, not the reason for the loss in this one. I will say, Scott, though, if you flipped Justin Herbert and Bo Nix in this game, though, Denver wins by 20 maybe, but that's just, Justin Herbert had probably the second best game a quarterback's had against Broncos all season outside of the Lamar Jackson game.
You like to call it God mode, and that was the thing. I've watched the last 2 weeks, Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert didn't play like that against the Buccaneers. He didn't play like that against the Falcons by any stretch of the imagination. That roll left throw to put the team up. Yeah. I mean, normally I always say people, it's so hard to roll right. Well, I'm a lefty, so apologies. Yeah. It's so hard to roll direction and throw with your opposite. I'm like, I never thought so, because you can totally use all your momentum and torque your whole body into it. I was like, I could throw the crap out of the ball rolling right and then throwing right with my left hand. He didn't get to do that.
Mm-mm.
He didn't get to torque his hips and throw his body. He threw the ball like off out of the side of his hand like a changeup running. That was an amazing pass.
Mm-hmm.
And he got a little bit of luck on the 2-point conversion. Tips on the way through. He throws a freaking fastball.
Yeah, he does.
It's tipped on the way through, batted up, and then caught. So again, those kind of small things change games. And if you win this game, that doesn't happen. You win this game, you're not. It's the small margins that can change your perception of the whole day, so to speak.
Yep.
And again, we're not.
That's football. That's the NFL, right? It's
after the first win, Nick, someone came in and said, "Well, you guys are after a big win. You guys aren't any fun. You guys are terrible after a big win." It's like, well, we're not jumping off a cliff after a loss either. We're pretty even keeled regardless. It's kind of who we are in the mornings.
After a cup of coffee, at least. Troy Brewer coming in 1999 says, "I'll take 9 wins for this year. Don't stick a fork in this team yet. I think Denver's got a chance. They have a chance to win both of the next games, guys. Yep. They really do. They still have a chance at the 6th seed. I mean, the Chargers, we saw what they did versus the games before this. They can easily fall apart still. So don't stick a fork in this Broncos team yet. But I'll take 9 wins too. We are now playing with house money, found a quarterback, great rookie class, good culture. Yeah, this team is on the up and up. Further to that, Troy, Denver, literally now, I guess, besides Riley Dixon, you've taken care of your most important pieces. The core of this team is going to be here again next year, and you're going to be able to add to the core. I mean, really, Scott, next year's conversation needs to be, what can we do to supercharge this team for a Super Bowl? Because defenses are very volatile. They fall apart quickly. I don't think this is an all-time elite defense, but you're top 5, top 10. You have the rookie quarterback contract. Your window is next year. I mean, it starts next year. It's always only rookie's second season. No, you need to go for it right now. You have all the cap to do it. You need to be thinking, how can we get this team to the Super Bowl next season? And it doesn't mean they have to win. It's not Super Bowl or bust, but you are in a window right now with what we've seen. So yes, the places, house money. Oh, go ahead, Scott. Sorry.
A couple of the places where you need help aren't high investment areas. What did we talk about at the beginning of the show? What'd you talk about, especially at the beginning of the show?
Linebackers.
Linebacker.
Yeah.
I can get a linebacker in the 3rd round. Running back. I can get a running back. A premium pick on a non-premium position is a day 2 pick, 2nd or 3rd round. Now, the places where I think you need premium investment are wide receiver, defensive tackle, those 2. After that, you can use a premium investment at a non-premium position. It doesn't cost as much. Linebacker, running back, tight end. Those are 3 places where you can, it's not so expensive to improve. And I can still use premium investment on wide receiver. I can still use, premium pick, lots of cap money on defensive line if I need to replace DJ Jones, so to speak, or just keep adding to it. And then if you get Moss coming back, I'd keep adding to the defensive backfield though, Nick. With your one, you've seen your one injury away from things kind of going off the rails. I think I'd like to have another pretty good cornerback there. I feel like we're at 3 now, 4 maybe.
It might be at 4. Yeah, that's the thing.
Might be at 4. Oh, that's not bad.
The thing about cornerback is that it's not a rotational position. So it's kind of weird. Like when you talk about like using a premium pick on defensive line, you're going to have snaps for them. Where if it's like you're using a 3rd round pick on a cornerback, but Riley Moss, Patrick Surtain, and McMillan are healthy all season, are they even seeing the field? So it really comes down to what do you think about Chris Abrams' drain? And I'm also just not against adding to value positions like cornerback because of how quickly things can change. But cornerback's kind of a weird one. I'm still waiting to see. It's based on what they think about Chris Abrams' drain. We got Coach Chris coming in and says, I know we're talking football, but want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Thank you so much, Coach Chris. He says, love this time of year. Honey hole. Wow, that sends the mind to a totally different direction. Yeah,
if you spot the honey hole in the defense, you can go for the money shot.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, you got to split the uprights though, Scott. You always got. We're all trying to score.
All right. I'm sorry I went there.
Yeah, I've always loved a good split end. But moving it forward here, Coach Chris, happy holidays to everybody in here. Really do appreciate the support. I also saw we got one of my favorites coming in here. Big time support, Jasmine.
Now I feel bad about this double entendre with the Mile High Ladies showing up. I'm like getting red.
Jasmine's chill. We're good. She says, I'm upset, maybe about the comments. I don't know, but wanted to stop by and say hello and show some support. Yeah, Jasmine, it's okay. Not too high, not too low. This team still has everything to play for, and it would be rather improbable for Denver to have everything go wrong and not make the playoffs still. Now, you are probably going to be locked into the 7 seed, assuming you do make the playoffs, which stinks. But Scott, again, I'm really thinking that the Ravens end up beating the Steelers. Are the Steelers going to beat the Ravens and then I think they play the Bengals the last week, and then are they also going to beat the Chiefs? I don't know. I think the Ravens are going to bypass the Steelers and get that 3 seed, and then between going to Buffalo or going to the Ravens, would I rather get stabbed or shot? It's like I don't care. That's both going to be hard. Just whatever, give us a chance.
It's interesting the way expectations change throughout. There's been we're not going to win a playoff game anyway, so what difference does it matter? All right, if I told you at the beginning of the season I'd give you 10-7 and an entry to the playoff, would you have taken it? No. BS. That's not true. Hello, Jasmine. I hope you are doing well and enjoying what has turned out to be a lovely day in the Southeast here, a fellow Georgian. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for the support right before the holidays. It means a lot to us. And Aaron wanted to answer this question. Aaron says, do we think they actually take a running back or just cut Javonte? Because if they get another one, they'll have the same rotation problem. The problem right now is they don't have a running back. If it's like, we'll estimate they don't have anybody they can trust that they can give the ball 15 to 20 times a game. Javonte is a free agent at the end of the season. I don't think he'll be back. He's going to ride out his contract, and maybe they bring him back for nothing, but I think he'll probably go somewhere else as a free agent. I really like Jaleel McLaughlin as a gadget guy, a third back. But I think you're in the market for 2 new backs. If Audric Estime can hold off whoever they bring in, more power to him. But he's not guaranteed a roster spot next year either. So I think you're bringing in 2 names, and I think you probably use a day 2 pick at least on a running back, Nick.
I mean, Scott, at this point, I wouldn't be shocked if I wouldn't do it, but I wouldn't have taken Bo Nix last year, and that looks to be foolhardy. So, maybe don't listen to me there, but I wouldn't be shocked at all if the Broncos traded up for Ashton Genty out of Boise State. Trading up for a running back in the deepest running back class we've had in a decade, you have to do it, right? No, I wouldn't do that. You could also see Denver using their first-round pick on a non-Ashton Genty running back. Caleb Johnson from Iowa is getting some late round 1 buzz, as is Omarion Hampton from North Carolina. There were rumors that when Sean Payton first came in, the Broncos didn't have the capital to do it, but he was rather infatuated with maybe going up and getting Gibbs, who ended up going to the Lions 12th overall, obviously pretty high there. But Payton's not afraid to use a premium resource on a super premium, we'll call it, Scott, because a day 2, you're right, is a premium. Yeah. But even if you don't take one round 1, it's going to be, this is the deepest, best running back class I've seen in a while. And running backs, unlike linebackers and tight ends, I'm with you, Scott, that it is a premium allocation of resources to use a day 2 pick on linebacker or tight end. But the learning, I don't know if that solves totally those positions next season, because those positions typically have a little bit of a learning curve, especially linebacker, tight end.
But with money, you can usually get a pretty good veteran for cheap. I mean, I think,
Austin Hooper plus Zach Bond,
We were on the show. I was doing the show with Lance. I was producing in the background, and he was talking about, Strnad was playing better. And he has been. I mean, we've gotten more out of Strnad this year than we expected, even if he's not that guy. That's not necessarily his fault. It's like he might not be good enough. That's okay. That's not his fault. He's doing his best. He didn't have a very good game yesterday. I know that. But Lance says, I'd throw him maybe a $5 million prove it deal next year. And I went like this in the background. He's like, what's wrong with that? I'm like, dude, $5 million puts you like top 15 in linebackers. He's like, really? I'm like, yes. I'm like, a prove it deal is what he's on now. $1 million. I'll give him $1 million, a veteran minimum, but $5 million. I'm like, Alex Singleton is like the number 7 inside linebacker in the NFL on $7 million. So you can get, if someone's hitting for the free agent market, you'll have the money to get an upgrade if someone's out there for you, if you find the right guy.
And I'm with you. My point was, It's not a premium investment. And Scott, let me know about my internet. I got the 1 bar signal there, but
yeah, it ain't
you
good.
can use a day. Okay, it's a day 2. You can use a day 2 selection at linebacker or tight end, and while that is a premium investment, I wouldn't expect day 1 results for those positions. Those are developmental positions in the league, so it's just a totally different game. So I'm with you. I mean, even bringing in somebody relatively cheap like Austin Hooper, Scott, I'm very interested in the free agency of Zach Bond, who's been playing unbelievable for the Eagles this season at linebacker. So keep an eye. He might be in a row. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, Denver's going to have avenues galore to improve this roster. The one that's kind of weird is wide receiver. I don't know if Chris Godwin's available, I'm interested in that market. I don't really love the round 1 wide receiver options for Denver. I'm not really a fan of the wide receivers I've watched this class that should be in Denver's range. But besides Emeka Ibuka, who we'll see, we'll have plenty of time to talk about that. But overall, Scott, a disappointing loss for the Broncos, but the season is far from over. We still have plenty of time to right this ship. Again, I'm playing with the playoff simulator here. I think it's almost impossible for the Broncos to lose out to the Colts as long as if the Dolphins lose one more game, or the Bengals lose one more game. I guess then automatically you're in, so it doesn't even matter then. But if it's a 3-way tie, the Colts can get in. The Colts have the better record. But if it's a 2-way tie, we're in trouble. Man, Scott, I'm having technical problems here.
Yeah. Why don't you say goodbye to everyone, say Merry Christmas, and hop on out, and I'll close us out here.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll figure out the internet next time. Maybe get an Ethernet cord in here to get it going. But appreciate everyone coming in here. Make sure you're following Scott and I on Twitter. Scott's at Scott Kennedy. I'm at Nick Kendell MHH. Also follow us at Mile High Huddle, as well as of course Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. Scott, hopefully this is sounding okay. And subscribe, like, and share over on YouTube. Go ahead, Scott. Close us out.
Yeah, that's okay. So Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. And again, make sure the boys will be in tonight on Dove Valley Deep Divers, the MHH guys. We got the Orange and Blue View on Saturday, and then a regular, because the Sunday is off from the game, the regularly scheduled MHH podcast. Nick and I plan to be back on Monday. So y'all have an excellent day. I know it stings a little bit, but overall, look at the standings and you'll feel better. Look at this team. This is a good football team. Last night hurt. There were some things you didn't agree with. There's some things they didn't agree with. That's okay. Bounce back. Take care of business in Cincinnati. Put this one behind you. You got 9 days to get ready, and we'll have some Saturday football. Y'all have a great morning. Appreciate you joining us. Wanted to say thank you to our big-time Super Chat superstars, Coach Chris, Naj, Troy, Naj coming in twice, Coach Chris coming in twice, and Jasmine finishing us out. Y'all have a great day, and for everybody here, go Broncos.
Peace.